Hey guys, welcome to another Kickstarter review. So as promised, I'm going to be giving my full spoiler review of the full series of Ahsoka starring Rosario Dawson. Seeing as this is going to cover the full series, I'm just going to dive right into it and just give you my dot point review throughout. I'm not going to go into extensive detail with each episode, just keep it brief and we'll get through it all and give you my overall thoughts. So as I've said so far, I struggled to see what was the reason, what was the point of the show existing. We literally ended up in a spot at the end of the series that was no really any further away from the beginning of the series. You know, Ahsoka came back, assembled her team, they went, chased after Thrawn, found Thrawn escaped, of course, and now it's just setting up for whatever is going to be the next, either season 2 of Ahsoka, Mando series 4, or potentially this Mandoverse movie that's going to come out whenever. So this whole series, what was it, 8 episodes, is just basically set up, and it wasn't even that great a setup. It could have easily been told in one episode, and if I'm being kind, a 90-minute film. And from the get-go, one of the biggest problems with this show was the characters, particularly the female characters, were just oddly lacking personality. Like they were all doing the same sort of bland, stoic persona where they just kind of talk in slow motion, stare at things, don't react in any way to anything big or small. They just kind of are there and just are being stiff and stoic, and it was just baffling to me because these are obviously characters adapted from animations which are known for being more lively than normal, and in particular Ahsoka's character, who's very energetic in Clone Wars, not as much so in Rebels because she is a bit more mature, but they've just completely washed all that personality from her in the show. And you know, I didn't really watch much of Rebels, or a bit of it, but Sabine case was kind of captured okay, but still she's just kind of very stiff and boring, uninspired. Even when she finally reunites with Ezra, this was kind of the big part of the show, was, you know, as important as it was for finding Thrawn, it was more important for Sabine to find Ezra. And when she found him, there was nothing. There was no big moment, nothing. It was just oh, hey, there you are, good to see you. So stupid and so pointless. And even the character that I found the most interesting in the show, which was Baylan Skoll, played by Ray Stevenson, even by the end, they completely just dropped the ball with this character. They gave him some intrigue throughout the show to make him interesting, and he's just a really good actor that he made the character come to life more than they deserve with their writing. But just by the end, there was nothing. He was just standing there on this gigantic statue and just looking at a distance, and nothing happened with his character. If you remove him basically from the series, doesn't change anything. And you could say that for a lot of the characters in the show, but particularly stands out when you're talking about a character that I think most people were quite enjoying seeing and wanted to see more of and find out more of, but they just kept him a mystery, but in all the wrong ways. It's more like they just forgot about him towards the end, or didn't know what to do with him when trying to do all the finale stuff with all the fighting and whatnot. And then there's Thrawn, the big bad, you know, the guy that was all hyped up, is the grandmaster genius of the Empire, who's going to bring the Empire back. He knows everything. He's 2 steps ahead of everyone, blah, blah, blah. But was not there. The Lars Mikkelsen's performance physically just did not feel imposing whatsoever. He didn't have the posture. He wasn't just commanding presence or anything like that. Didn't feel threatening in any way. And a lot of his decisions were just simply dumb, like sending Sabine out into the desert and to find Ezra. And meanwhile, Ezra was not that far away from him this whole time. And then allowing Ahsoka and Sabine and Ezra to storm his Star Destroyer. All these stupid decisions he was making the whole time just made no sense and just completely undermine what's meant to be his persona, that he is this really smart genius tactician and all that. And there was none of that on display whatsoever. If anything, they just made him look as dumb as any other bumbling sort of lieutenant or whatever. And so yeah, completely underwhelming villain on that part. No payoff in terms of the build-up that they were building to his character, because they did make it feel kind of okay, we want to see Thrawn, we want to see him. They had made the nice build-up, but then once he's actually shown, it's completely underwhelming. And then looking at the aesthetics of the show, one thing that really bothered me is that everything felt very polished and new. Nothing much in this show felt lived in, and that was something that was always very key to the aesthetic of Star Wars films that George Lucas from the start really wanted. He wanted the universe to feel and look lived in. All that meaning the ships look worn out, a lot of dusty, dirty kind of environments. None of that. Everything felt very new and polished, and there was no grime and dirt and all on the characters. They all seemed too clean. So that was just really like off-putting to me from an aesthetic point of view, and yeah, just did not feel like a Star Wars, like the Star Wars universe. Felt like something different. And as this is a Star Wars show, we obviously have to judge the action as well, because one thing Star Wars has usually done is it's kind of introduced or brought something new to the table in the way of action and sci-fi and all that sort of stuff. But this show, really, all of the action scenes to me felt so cookie cutter. They felt like they were written by an AI, really. I mean, it just felt like, okay, 15-20 minutes has elapsed. We now need a chase scene. Insert chase scene as generic as possible. There's no stakes. At no moment in any of these action scenes did you feel like any of these characters were at threat. It just felt like, okay, this is just the standard stock like action scene that needs to take place now because we've had 20 minutes of dialogue and we need to get the audience's attention back. And so all those chase scenes, all the lightsaber battles, anything, the gunfights, what you name it, they felt as cookie cutter as can be, and just completely bland and uninspired. And I mean, say what you want about the prequels, but my God, did George introduce something incredible in those prequels with the type of fight choreography that the Jedis were displaying. Something new, something we'd never seen before. And this show has nothing in that way. There was nothing new about it whatsoever. And probably the most talked about moment or episode of the show was the Anakin episode, where he turns up essentially in the world between worlds in Ahsoka's mind and takes her on a whole lesson, again, like going back to basics. And in isolation, you can look at it and you can just appreciate, it's great to see Hayden Christensen back as Anakin, cool to see him doing his old moves, he hasn't missed a step, and seeing these scenes recreated from like Clone Wars era, that's cool in isolation. But when you step back from it, you can see that it is completely shallow, has no bearing on this show whatsoever. You take that episode out of the series and there is no difference whatsoever to the story before or after. It's right smack bang in the middle, and it has no effect on anything. Ahsoka learns nothing from it that benefits her later. It would have been fine, great even, if the lessons she learned from Anakin she then applied later on to overcome something, but it didn't even come back to it. It was just like, because even the lesson that was taught was the most basic lesson you could ever teach someone, which is live or die. Like, what the hell does that even mean? It's so basic that it's like mind blowing in terms of what were they thinking that there's people would take from this. Well, why was Ahsoka questioning whether she should live or die? There was no hint on any part leading up to that she was ever questioning that for herself. She wasn't suicidal. She wasn't wanting out of the fight, anything like that. She was just existing, and like it didn't make any sense. It's just key jangling. That's it. We need something in the show to bring people into it. Bring Anakin Skywalker. He's one of the few actors left who still enjoys the Star Wars universe. Fans still enjoy. So that was all it was for, and it's completely meaningless. So yeah, as I said, this whole show just felt like it's a setup to something else, but even in that, it felt like nothing happened. It felt like you could just start from whatever they're going to be telling next, and you wouldn't have missed a beat and wouldn't be at any loss of information of what's going on. So incredible to say that you have 8 episodes and essentially nothing happened or nothing of interest. So yeah, pointless and poorly executed a lot of the times, I think, is the overall thoughts that I have on the show. And so my overall score that I'm giving it is a 3 out of 10. And I think that's even being kind. I'm giving points to, okay, it's fun seeing Anakin in isolation. I thought Ray Stevenson did a decent job as Baylan Skoll, and he was intriguing. Couple nice moments here and there, but for the most part it was garbage. So yeah, 3 out of 10. No excitement whatsoever for Star Wars going forward. Was not excited before this show either, so I'm not going to say it's worse off now after this show. I had very low expectations and it didn't exceed it in any way. So yeah, look, Star Wars to me is dead essentially, but we'll see what happens next. What thing they pull out from the past to try and get us interested again, whichever character that might be. But yeah, look, Ahsoka to me is garbage, and if you haven't watched it yet, I wouldn't recommend wasting your time. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, and comment in this comment section below. Let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear it all. Subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that, and we'll see you next time. Bye.